grandmothers. Lend me your hands. Make my ears sharp to hear your voice. Animate me with your wisdom as eternal echoes throughout the ages.
Grandmothers, call me home. Great grandmothers, call me home. Great grandmothers, call me home. Great grandmothers, call me home. I feel your hands on my shoulders. Feel your hands on my shoulders. Hands on my shoulders. Feel your hands on my shoulders. Great grandmothers, call me home. Great grandmothers, call me home. Great grandmothers, call me home. Great grandmothers, call me home.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to this workshop, Walking with the Wise Grandmothers, a heartfelt journey to connect with your matriarchal lineage and awaken your ancestral medicine. For those of you who are here live, welcome, welcome. I'm seeing lots of you here in the chat, which is really wonderful, sharing where you're from. And for those of you who are going to be watching this recording later, a very big welcome to you as well. And if you haven't said hello yet in the chat, please feel free to do that so we can really feel ourselves weaving together in global community. We're coming from many different corners of the globe, so please feel free to say hello. And if you're tuning into this workshop in the Facebook group or on YouTube, please go ahead and make the video full screen to minimize any distractions and really make sure that you get the most out of this time. I really want to encourage you to be present, so go ahead and turn your phones on silent and just minimize any distractions as much as possible. Please also make sure that you have a journal and a pen with you. And as we're beginning this call, you might also like to burn some herbs or light some candles in your space, really just making a sacred space for yourself to experience this workshop. As a reminder, this workshop is going to be about 2.5 hours. I would say maybe we'll be a little bit less than that, maybe a little bit more, depending how much sharing there is, but leave about 2.5 hours. And for those of you who don't know me, maybe you're very new to my work, my name is Tara Wild. I'm a women's educator, a storyteller, and a songstress, and my passion is connecting women to the wisdom of their ancestors. I'm an American, and I honor the lands that I currently stand upon, which are the ancestral lands of the Ute and Arapaho people in the mountains of so-called Colorado. I come from a mixed tapestry of European ancestry, which includes English, Irish, Scottish, and Italian. I honor my lineages and I honor my wise grandmothers. And before we officially get started, I'd like to just remind you of what you're going to experience in this workshop today. You're going to learn how to identify some of the patriarchal patterns in your lineage. We're going to be working with the mother line specifically. You'll connect with your wise grandmothers from your lineage, your mother line, and also awaken to the unique ancestral medicine that you carry. I'm also going to share my ancestral medicine map, and I'm going to introduce you to my upcoming 3-day deep dive retreat called Matriarchal Medicine Carriers, which is an opportunity to unleash your ancestral medicine and unlock the power of the matriarchy. And I'm going to share all those details at the end of this workshop. I'm seeing a comment here, your sound keeps cutting out. Is anyone else having trouble hearing me? Can everyone hear me okay? If you could just let me know in the chat, that would be really helpful. Just waiting to see if anyone else is having that problem. I hear you. Okay. Okay, great. Good. Yes, please do let me know if anyone's having trouble hearing me, seeing me as we go along in this call. I want to mention as well, before we get started, that if you have any questions about your ancestral healing journey, as we're going through the workshop, maybe questions start coming up for you, please make a note of your questions in your journal. And I'm going to answer all of the questions at the very end of this call so that I don't have to try and monitor the chat and keep track of your questions. It's just going to be a lot easier if I can just really, focus on teaching and sharing wisdom and what have you and guiding you in this experience. So please write any questions that you have in your journal and save them for the end. Okay, so I'd like to begin by sharing a quote from Lane Redmond from a book called When the Drummers Were Women. And she says, "All the eggs a woman will ever carry form in her ovaries while she is a 4-month-old fetus in the womb of her mother. This means our cellular life as an egg begins in the womb of our grandmother. Each of us spent 5 months in our grandmother's womb, and she in turn formed within the womb of her grandmother. We vibrate to the rhythms of our mother's blood before she herself is born. And this pulse is the thread of blood that runs all the way back through the generations, through the grandmothers, to the first mother." This thread of blood that Lane Redmond talks about, that connects us to our mother line, is the reason that we are gathering here today. This connection is so powerful and so sacred. And yet there's been so much disruption in our matriarchal lineages, so much intergenerational wounding and patriarchal patterning that has really damaged the beauty of this connection, the sacredness of this connection for a very long time. I want to take this moment to deeply honor the personal reasons why you're at this workshop. Perhaps you're longing to reconnect with the medicine, magic, and wisdom of your mother line. Perhaps you feel that you're carrying these intergenerational legacies of pain that don't belong to you, and you're here to begin the process of understanding and coming to terms with this pain. Perhaps you have a sense that the negative cycles that keep repeating in your life might be connected to ancestral burdens in your lineage. Perhaps you're here because you know in your heart and bones that you're here to be the change in your lineage. Or perhaps you're simply here to connect with and honor the wise grandmothers, or all of the above. So I invite you to take this moment to close your eyes and really get clear with yourself. What has called you to this workshop today? What has called you here? And I'm going to leave a moment of silence for you to clarify this sacred calling within you, and then I invite you to articulate it in the chat so I can get a sense of the group and feel some of your prayers and intentions as we're coming into this journey together. So I'm going to leave a moment for you to reflect. What has called you here? Seeing some shares come in here, which I'll read aloud. And I can't always see the name of the person who's sharing, so excuse me if I don't always share the name. Someone here shares, "To be the change for my daughters. I want to feel connected to my lineage." Vicky shares, "My mother recently died, and when she died, I suddenly found myself grieving my grandmothers." Yes, Vicky. Wow, really feeling that. Sarah, "Healing the mother line." Yes, Sarah. Erin, "My grandmother's ancestors are sorry and they want to reconnect." That's so beautiful, Erin. Someone else here shares, "Heal my matriarchal lineage." Yes. Candace, "Healing the mother line." Yes. Gina shares, "Deeper connection with the divine feminine." Yes. I'll just read a few more. Someone else here shares, "The longing for that profound connection with my lineage." Yes. Anna, healing the trauma. Joan, clearing, but I have no idea how. Help. Yes, Joan, I hear you, and I hope that this workshop will be helpful. And just one last one I'll share. Anne shares, healing the ancestry, both sides of my children's parents. Yes. Beautiful to hear some of your prayers and intentions, and I'm excited to read all these other shares later. There are so many coming in, which is really beautiful. I saw a question earlier, is this going to be recorded? Yes, let me clarify that now. If you need to leave early, if you can't stay for the whole live call, the recording is going to be sent out by email, so don't worry, you're not going to miss anything, okay? So, I want to mention here at the beginning of this call, now that we've really grounded into our intentions, that there will be moments in this workshop where I talk about some deep topics, right? This is a really deep subject matter. This is really, really close to our hearts. It's so much a part of who we are. And so some of these things that I'm going to be sharing might be triggering. And I really encourage you to take care of your own needs. If something is triggering and you need to take a break and step away for a while, please do so. As I shared, everything's going to be recorded, so you can come back to this if you need to. And yes, I'm guiding you on this journey, but you are responsible for your own well-being, your own experience. So please just take care of your needs and know that we are going to go into some deep topics today. Okay, so we're now going to welcome in the wise grandmothers of our mother lines, creating a field of possibility and connecting us to the energies of love and lineage. So I invite you to close your eyes and place a hand on your heart, perhaps place a hand on your womb space as well, and begin by taking a few deep breaths, really grounding into presence. Know that you are a living manifestation of your lineage. Your body is the ancestor altar, and the wisdom, medicine, and magic of your mother line flows through your veins. You carry the blessing of your foremothers and grandmothers. The beauty of your ancestral inheritance is coded into your DNA, written into the scripture of who you are and all that you came here to be. The wise grandmothers have been praying for someone like you to do this sacred lineage work. This is your destiny and legacy, an opportunity to claim your sacred place in the lineage and become the woman you were born to be. I now invite you to open your awareness to the wise grandmothers from your mother line, to make an initial connection and impression of them. We all have wise grandmothers, stretching back through the generations. Sometimes we have to reach back very far in the lineage to find them, but they're there. They are guardians of the matriarchal lineage. And simply by acknowledging them, we create an opportunity to connect in heartfelt ways. For the next few moments, really acknowledge the wise grandmothers of your mother line. You might get a strong feeling or an energy from them. You might see glimpses of them with your inner sight. Pay attention and just know that there's no wrong way to connect. Imagine, sense, and feel these ancestral elders. Feel their wisdom, their strength, and support. And as you acknowledge them, know that they are also acknowledging you. Let there be this shared moment of witnessing, seeing, and acknowledging one another. Welcome, old ancestors and wise grandmothers. May we feel your love and support today and every day. May we walk your pathways of remembrance. And may we open our hearts to your wisdom, medicine, and magic. We honor the wise women, the medicine makers, the earth tenders and community menders. We honor the midwives, the gardeners, the sages, mages, and crones. We honor the adventurers, the artists, the scholars, and radical thinkers. We honor the fighters, the rebels, the ones who kicked up a storm. We honor the water protectors, the story keepers and wisdom weavers, the ones who would not be silent. We honor the death doulas, the carers, the teachers, the ones who did thankless work. Wise grandmothers, we honor your resilience, your courage, your devotions, your love. Blessings. And thank you, wise grandmothers. Take a few final moments to make this initial connection with your wise grandmothers. And then when you're ready, I invite you to write down some initial impressions of them in your journal. Just write a few words to describe any feelings or visions or sensations that came through. And feel free to share any of your reflections in the chat box as well. So I'm going to leave some space for a couple minutes here for you to do some writing and reflect on this initial connection. Seeing some shares come in, lots of you feeling supported and held, love, resilience, strength, joy. Some of you mentioning that you feel some pain, which, yes, that's, it's good to just have that in your awareness that there's some pain there. Yeah. And we'll go deeper into some of that a little later. So just for now, know that it's totally normal for pain or discomfort to come up through making this initial connection. Some beautiful visions coming through, seen, validated. Some sadness, yeah. Thank you all for sharing. Please feel free to keep sharing. It's really beautiful to just hear some of your initial reflections. We're going to journey deeper with the wise grandmothers later in this call. And so this is really just a beginning of making that relationship, right? Okay. So we're going to transition into the teaching part of this call. and you may want to have your journal handy to write some notes. As I've shared, you're going to get a recording of this workshop, so you don't need to make vigorous notes. I really just invite you to write down the things that feel most resonant, that really strike a chord and feel most relevant to you. I'm going to begin with an introduction to ancestral healing work, ancestral connection, and what it means to be a medicine carrier in your lineage. As a reminder, this is an introductory workshop. There is so much to share about this path, much more than I have time to share today. So hopefully this will be a meaningful introduction. And for those of you who hear the call to go deeper, there's going to be that opportunity to come to my 3-day online retreat, which is more of a deep dive. So I'm going to just pull up some slides. There we go. So I'm going to begin by talking about the importance of our embodied intuitive wisdom. All of you are coming to this workshop with some kind of knowledge of your mother line, even if that knowledge is that you don't know anything about this lineage. And I imagine that part of the reason you're here is to better understand this lineage, right? And it's important, first and foremost on this path, to recognize that there is so much more to your lineage than what you think you know. If you're lucky, you may have knowledge about your mother line, including family stories, information about ancestral heritage, your family history, which lands your mother lines come from, and so on. And I've been reading some of your beautiful posts in the Dreaming the Ancestors Facebook group over the past few days, and it's really heartwarming to see some of you sharing your family history. And as a follow-up to this workshop, I really encourage everyone to try and document family stories if they're accessible to you and learn about this kind of, tangible aspect of your lineage. While this information is wonderful to have, there's also so much intuitive and intangible wisdom that we can gather from the lineage. So if you're someone who knows very little about your mother line, maybe you don't know anything, you don't have any sense of your family history or your family stories, you can still very much engage with this path of ancestral healing, remembrance, and reconnection. And that's because we have the ability to gather intuitive wisdom from the lineage. This is a very spiritual, very sacred aspect of this path, this journey of walking with our ancestors. This path is about reclaiming the wisdom, medicine, and magic of the lineage beyond the rational mind. The patriarchy and colonialism have really conditioned us away from this aspect of relating. We've been taught to favor logic and reason over our own intuition and inner knowing. So in this workshop, we're going to begin the process of unraveling some of this conditioning, first and foremost by giving substance and weight to our own intuitive knowledge and reclaiming the value of our embodied ancestral wisdom. You're going to hear me talk about embodied wisdom and embodied acknowledgement a number of times throughout this workshop. And this is because our bodies are the living manifestation of the lineage. Our bodies hold the stories of those who have gone before us, right? Our DNA is coded with ancestral inheritance and ancestral stories. Our DNA is not just about the transference of physical traits from our forebears. It's a memory bank of ancestral knowledge. This includes many different ancestral stories and also ancestral wounds. For example, I don't know of any sexual trauma in my mother line, but I intuitively know that it's there, unseen and unspoken. When we tap into this memory bank inside the body, we can unearth so much intuitive wisdom from our lineage and also rewrite ancestral coding to bring forth healing, which is really when we step into the role of becoming a medicine carrier for the lineage. Unearthing intuitive wisdom about the lineage also brings us into connection with ancestral blessings and the acknowledgement of what we've inherited that's beautiful and valuable and meaningful. We all have ancestral blessings, even if, that's hard for you to imagine right now because there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of sadness. There are blessings that we can again, intuitively come into relationship with. Ancestral medicine is found at the intersection of personal and ancestral healing. So for many years of walking this medicine path with my ancestors, I've really learned that the greatest healing often happens at this powerful intersection. To demonstrate what I mean by this, I will use myself as an example. So a few months ago, I found myself in the depths of some personal healing that felt quite overwhelming. And having done a lot of healing work over the years, personal healing work, I sort of found myself wondering, why does this feel so hard? And then I realized that this healing is about more than just me. And this is something that has happened many times on my journey when I feel where I sort of make this connection, like, oh, yes, this healing is about more than just me. It's about my ancestors too. And this shift in awareness, brought a lot of spaciousness for me a few months ago. I was kind of going through this deep initiatory healing journey. And it was kind of like opening a window in a room that's too hot. It's like it brings in a whole breath of fresh air. And in bringing forth this awareness, I started to feel my ancestors around me. And they started showing up in very obvious ways through conversations with my family in particular. I noticed that some sort of family history that had been hidden for a long time started coming to the surface. For me, that's one of the big signs that our ancestors are really working with us. They're collaborating with us. And I also noticed, my ancestors coming through in my daily devotions, my spiritual practices, and the healing work that I was doing. It was kind of like my ancestors were there the whole time, yelling for my attention, getting louder and louder until I finally noticed them. And this acknowledgement created the opportunity for personal and ancestral healing to weave together and bring forth the medicine most needed. And as I shared, this has happened to me a number of times. The example I was just giving was the one that was most recent. And really what I want to emphasize here is that when you heal yourself, you also heal your lineage. When you make the connection between the personal wounds that you carry and the intergenerational wounds of your lineage, you create an opportunity to bring forth medicine for those specific wounds. Medicine that's unique to you and your place in the lineage. This is really the nature of your unique ancestral medicine and what it means to be a medicine carrier in your lineage. I want to talk about the ancestors themselves now, and the importance of including them as they are in this process of ancestral healing, remembrance, and reconnection. This is about honoring the ancestors as being part of you, but also separate from you. They are on their own soul journey, and it's important for us to honor their unique journeys. If we're stuck in preconceived notions of our ancestors, if we can't get past what we think we know about them, then we actually exclude them from the healing and reconciliation process. This is very important for us to see and relate to the ancestors as they truly are and not how we think they are. So just to kind of clarify some of this a little bit more, working with the ancestors in this particular way assumes that there's some kind of life after death and that people have souls. There's also an assumption that the souls of the ancestors have been on some kind of journey after death and their souls are on a continuing journey. So you may know terrible stories about one of your ancestors. Let's say a grandmother who was just nasty when she was alive, no one liked her, but that doesn't mean she's nasty now. She might have been troubled in life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's troubled in death. Judging our ancestors is not very helpful in the ancestral healing process. And I understand the temptation to want to judge, especially if a recent ancestor was abusive or neglectful, not a nice person, did bad things by all standards. And judging them will not help to bring healing to the lineage, only more fragmentation. This isn't to excuse their behavior when they were alive. It doesn't mean you have to, spiritually bypass the wrongs they did to you. It's just an acknowledgement that they are no longer alive and they are in a different state now, a different place on their soul journey because they're not physically incarnate anymore. The next thing that feels important to share here is that your ancestors are just people. And when it comes to working with ancestral guides like the wise grandmothers, it's not an energy of worship, but it's about creating a loving partnership with them and being in a good relationship, which is most importantly about respect and also gratitude. One of the best ways that we can really be in good relationship with the wise grandmothers is to feel gratitude, to nourish them with gratitude and send our gratitude up the lineage. Yeah? Okay. So, following on from these thoughts, it's important to understand that the spirits of our ancestors are on a kind of spectrum of wellness. Some of our ancestors are very wise and well, they are healed, they are whole in spirit, and they have nothing but good intentions for us and the lineage. For example, the wise grandmothers fall into this category. However, not all ancestors are well in spirit. Some ancestors are deeply unwell, some are really troubled, and we don't need to judge them for that, but we certainly want to have good boundaries with them, right? You don't want unwell or troubled ancestors in your personal energetic space. I have heard numerous stories over the years of unwell ancestors giving people some trouble, let's say. So to give an example, I know of a woman who set up an ancestor memory space with some photographs of her ancestors and so on, which is a really beautiful practice. But soon after setting up this memory space, she became sick. And she intuitively knew that this illness was somehow connected to an unwell ancestor. She was actually throwing up and had this sense that she was purging something on behalf of this unwell ancestor, which was very insightful of her to recognize this. I don't share this to evoke any sense of fear about working with the ancestors, just as a firm message to really pay attention. Stay rooted in your body, be aware of your personal energetic space. Walking this path with the ancestors is a path that really requires our presence. It's not something that can or should be done in a casual or offhand way. We need to be really well resourced and grounded in ourselves to do this work effectively and safely, which is why I really feel passionately that it's important to be in community with others who are also walking this path, who aren't going to look at us like we're crazy when we need to talk about this shit, right? Because sometimes it's really messy. It can get messy. Sometimes unwell ancestors come into our lives because they really need healing. Sometimes we feel their energy, their presence, because they really want healing. And so we need to get clear with ourselves whether or not we're willing and able to help them with that healing, or if we need to set a boundary. This brings me to boundaries and consent. Sometimes we need to set boundaries with our ancestors, especially the unwell ancestors, and reaffirm that the ancestors need our consent to be in relationship with us. I think it's really important to ask yourself, how deep am I willing to go into this healing process with my ancestors? What's my capacity for discomfort, and how do I know when I've reached my capacity? These are important questions that can help to inform what you're willing to consent to and where you need to draw boundaries, right? I think that setting energetic boundaries is unique to each person, and what works for one person may not work for someone else. However, I will give you a few ideas for setting boundaries. So, number 1, ask unwell ancestors firmly and respectfully to be anywhere except your personal space or the personal space of your loved ones. Literally anywhere else in the universe. Number 2, if you have a photograph of an ancestor that gives you a negative feeling, don't put it out on display. Keep it somewhere out of sight. The same goes for family heirlooms. If you get a bad feeling from it, don't wear it. Don't keep it out. Objects hold energy. pay special attention to anything that you're going to wear. So a few years ago, my grandmother gave me a ring that belonged to my great-grandmother. And the night that I got it, I had this really lovely dream about my great-grandmother. I don't remember what the dream was. I just felt her presence and knew that it gave me a really positive feeling. So I felt really good about wearing the ring, right? Number 3, if you feel like an unwell ancestor has been in your home or your personal space, you might do some kind of cleanse, like a smoke cleanse, to clear some of that energy and protect your space. Smoke cleanses or smoke blessings are found in many different cultures, and I encourage you to use herbs that are appropriate for your lineage. For example, I use mugwort, juniper, and rosemary. I don't use white sage because I don't have Native American ancestry, and I don't call it smudging. These are important details that further our connection with our ancestors by really leaning into our own ancestral practices. And if you know the ancestral heritage of your mother line, I encourage you to do some research about the ancestral practice of burning herbs for the purpose of clearing, cleansing, blessing, or protecting. For example, there's a practice in Scotland that's called seining, and it's not just limited to burning herbs, but sometimes it can include burning herbs, juniper in particular. Number 4, if you're someone who's familiar with channeling energy, like Reiki, you might create a protection bubble around your space. For example, you might do this in your bedroom if you're having bad dreams that seem connected to an unwell ancestor, right? Those are just some ideas. Please feel free to share any other ideas in the chat if you have other practices that would be useful for setting firm boundaries with ancestors. So we now come to the benefits of ancestral healing work. And I really want to focus on this because this is so much part of the reason of why we're doing this, right? And, walking forward with this medicine as we heal our ancestral lineages is empowering at the most root level and can have a ripple effect into so many areas of your life. Your health, your relationships, your self-esteem, and of course, so much more. So I've kind of created a list of some of the benefits that I've seen in my own life and the lives of women that I've mentored over the years to kind of inspire you and give you some ideas about, the things that you can really unearth within yourself as you walk this path. Knowing where you stand in the lineage brings a powerful sense of purpose and belonging. Understanding your ancestral lineage brings a greater understanding of self and empowers you to make more conscious choices in your life. Healing intergenerational wounds builds inner strength and resilience. This healing can greatly improve your relationship with living family members and break the chain for future generations. I know that many of you were commenting that, part of your intention, your prayer for doing this work is for your children. And this is such a deep driver, right? And this really is an opportunity to break the chain for your children and future generations. Releasing burdens from the lineage allows the ancestral blessings to shine and become more dominant. Healing harmful patterns can greatly improve your health. For example, if you heal patterns of addiction, mental illness, or perhaps simply you're just putting more emphasis on feeling good in your body and focusing on your health. Releasing personal and ancestral wounds in the body can help you to find more fulfillment in your personal physical existence. For example, clearing blocks around experiencing pleasure will support you to experience more pleasure, right? Ancestral burdens can feel so heavy, and healing these burdens brings forth a lightness and ease in life that's truly invaluable. And last but not least, healing the patriarchy wound in your lineage can help you to embrace yourself as a woman and feminine aspects of yourself in deeply personal and meaningful ways. So that's my list. And like with anything in life, we get the results we want from putting in the work and not giving up when things are hard. On this ancestral healing path, things can sometimes get worse or more intense before they get better because we really have to work through the wounds. We can't really bypass them, right? And this is why it's beneficial to have community and support, because it keeps us motivated and focused. And most of all, it reminds us that we're not alone. I often imagine my matriarchal lineage as a river, and the intergenerational wounds are like boulders and debris in the river that's clogging up the natural flow. And the more that I've cleared and healed my mother line, the more the river has been able to flow abundantly. And I really now have this, indescribable feeling of the river of my lineage carrying so much love and wisdom and substance and strength. And the lineage really nourishes me and supports my life in so many ways. And there's this sense that my ancestors are always with me and always guiding me. Before I move on to the next section, I just want to remind everyone, if you have a question as I'm going through all of this, please write it down in your journal. I'm going to respond to all questions at the end, so please write them down in your journal, and there'll be a moment at the end when I ask you to write them in the chat, okay? So, I'm going to introduce you to my ancestral medicine map now. And I want to begin by saying that to journey with the ancestors in deeply intentional and heartfelt ways is truly a spiral path that spirals us deep into our inner landscapes, into the very coding of who we are. This pathway is one of initiation, spiraling us deeper and deeper into layers of self. And from a feminine perspective, we might think of this as the heroine's journey. So I've worked with my ancestors for many years, as I've mentioned, and each time I find myself in a new spiral of initiation, like just a few months ago, I'm astounded to find these new depths of healing. And through my personal experience of this spiral journey, I've created this ancestral medicine map, which focuses on the intersection of personal and ancestral healing. So I'm going to walk you through this map and talk just a little bit about each spiral. So recognizing the shadows is the first spiral in healing ancestral pain and patterns, which is about recognizing what has happened in the lineage. For example, recognizing a pattern of addiction in your lineage. This is what we might call an ancestral burden, a shadow, a painful pattern, a wound. So that's just a little example. I'm going to be giving more examples of wounding and patterning later. We then come to embodied acknowledgements. We go around sunwise around the spiral. So embodied acknowledgement is next in the spiral, which is about feeling what has happened in the lineage. And in my experience, this is most effective when we're able to feel how we carry the pain and patterns in our own bodies, these ancestral pains and patterns, right? For example, feeling the pain of your own sexual trauma or the loss of a child, and then feeling how others in your lineage have also experienced this pain. And inside of this embodied acknowledgement, you might also come to understand the pattern better, and perhaps even how the pattern began. For example, there might be a pattern of mental illness in your lineage, and you might come to understand through this process that those who are afflicted were victims of some kind of child abuse. There might be that pattern, and you might see that as you're going through this embodied acknowledgement process. And this knowledge might arise from what you've been told about your lineage, or your intuition, or both. We then come to the third and final spiral, which is conscious choice. Once you have the awareness, and once you've done the embodied acknowledgement, you have the power to make a different choice about how you carry ancestral patterns forward. So this is an opportunity to release ancestral burdens to create real and lasting change in your life. I also like to talk about alchemizing ancestral burdens into blessings. In my upcoming retreat, Matriarchal Medicine Carriers, which I've mentioned a few times now, we're going to journey through all three of these spirals over the course of 3 days. So we're really going to go deep into each spiral. But for today's workshop, we're just going to touch on the first spiral, which is recognizing the shadows. And on a final note, this map can be used with any lineage. We have lots of different lineages, but for the purposes of today's workshop, we're going to focus on the mother line specifically. Okay, so I'm going to pull down the slides now. There we go. Okay, so let's begin this process of recognizing the shadows in the matriarchal lineage. And I'm going to talk specifically about the patriarchy wound and the ways in which the patriarchy as a system of oppression has disrupted the mother line. So let's just begin with understanding what the patriarchy is. I want us all to have sort of the same understanding. So historically, the patriarchy has been defined as a social system in which men hold primary power and hold prominent roles of political leadership, religious authority, social privilege, and control of property. However, in a more modern view of patriarchy, we can understand that this system of oppression is very multi-layered. So it doesn't just have social, political, religious, and economic aspects, but also psychological, spiritual, and yes, ancestral. It also closely relates to our morals as a society and what we've been taught to value. It's important to say that patriarchy, colonialism, and white supremacy are interlinking systems of oppression. And there's also a misconception that patriarchal systems don't negatively affect men. In my view, as a system, patriarchy isn't really about men at all, but about a culture of domination that has been historically adopted by men. But again, in a modern understanding, patriarchy can be damaging to all genders. In this workshop, we're going to focus on the ways that the patriarchy wound has been transferred and transmitted through the mother line. So if a woman in your matriarchal lineage was unable to fully process a traumatic experience, the experience would have inevitably fallen onto and into the next generation. These traumas often get transmitted through dysfunctional coping mechanisms such as self-sabotaging beliefs and patterns, which are then reinforced by the wider patriarchal narrative. Inherited patriarchal wounding holds us back in so many unseen ways. And despite all of the progress that's been made regarding women's rights, we are still dealing with generations of inherited and unhealed patriarchal wounding and trauma. And this is especially prevalent when colonialism and white supremacy are also at play in our lineages, right? So for some of you that will be relevant, for others it won't be. And there's this very interesting new field of study, which some of you may have heard of, called epigenetics. And basically modern science is now beginning to understand that the lived experiences of our ancestors are still affecting us today, especially the traumas and experiences of our parents and our grandparents on literally a genetic level. And this is why harmful patterns are repeated within a lineage until someone decides to break this chain and heal deeply. So you might be hearing all this and wondering, how do I know if I have patriarchal trauma in my lineage? What are some of the signs? So I'm going to share some of that with you. So these are 12 inherited patriarchal patterns which you can begin to recognize in yourself and your lineage. This is not a fully comprehensive list. And, if you think of other things, please feel free to write those down as well. But I invite you to write down these 12 patriarchal patterns in your journal and to spend the next few minutes going through them and circling any that feel relevant to you and your life. And as I shared, please feel free to add other patterns to this list as well. So I'm going to just leave a little bit of time for you to write these down. I hope you can see. In fact, I'm going to make the screen bigger so you can see, because I know the writing's a little small. Hopefully you can see the writing clearly. And feel free to write in the chat if there are any on this list that feel especially potent for you. If you're like, yes, that is something that I feel really strongly. If anyone needs me to read these aloud, if you're having trouble reading it, please just let me know in the chat and I can read them aloud. Yes, someone's asking me to say them. Yes. Number 1, codependency. Number 2, lack of self-worth. Number 3, a fear of speaking up, setting boundaries, being seen, and taking space. Number 4, jealousy and competition with other women. Number 5, feelings of shame. Number 6, disconnection from your physical body, enjoying your body, and experiencing pleasure. Number 7, toxic relationships. Number 8, lack of intimacy and trust. Number 9, limiting beliefs like I'm not good enough. It's not safe to express my emotions, be a good girl, life is hard, stay small, stay quiet. Those are just a few examples, but there are many more. So limiting beliefs. Number 10, a perpetual sense of victimhood, blame, and powerlessness. Number 11, operating in survival mode all the time. And number 12, constantly seeking validation and a need to prove yourself. Thank you to those of you who are sharing in the chat. It's really powerful to bring these shadows into the light, to acknowledge them and recognize them, and also know that we're not alone, that there are many, many other women who struggle with these things. And looking at these inherited patterns, these shadows, is not about victimizing or blaming anyone, but empowering ourselves to see things as they are. Not looking at this, not acknowledging this, comes at a cost. It costs us. It really affects the way that we feel about ourselves, the way we show up in our lives. It affects our relationships, especially with our families. It affects the ways that we relate to our womanhood and our worth. And as I shared in the Ancestral Medicine Map, recognizing the shadows is the first step on this healing path. Without this acknowledgement, we stay subconsciously stuck in these painful intergenerational wounds and patterns. Yeah, sisters, you're not alone. Like so many of us have all of these or some of these, and just really know that, bringing these shadows to light is going to begin to change things. This is the first step, is just acknowledging this. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take the slide down in just a few moments. Please let me know if you're not finished with this yet. So yeah, please let me know if anyone still needs this up, and I'll take it down in just one more minute. Some of you are already beginning to put together that you have inherited these things from family members. We're going to reflect on that more deeply very soon. And I'm going to talk about that transference of these patterns through the mother line. Okay. So, what I have learned over the years is that the patriarchy wound is actually often carried forward and perpetuated in subconscious ways by the women of our lineage. The women. There's this transmission of memory, experience, and patriarchal trauma that happens in this lineage, passing down from mother to daughter until someone is willing to truly feel it and heal it. Bethany Webster, who's an expert on the mother wound, shares that the patriarchal messages daughters receive from their mothers are more insidious and damaging than any of the cultural messages combined. And she also talked about how the patriarchy has distorted the dynamics between mothers and daughters that leave both disempowered. The mother-daughter split is one of the biggest symptoms of unresolved patriarchal trauma in the lineage. And this is because our relationship with our mother is a key focal point where the patriarchy wound gets passed down. And the transference of patriarchal beliefs, wounds, and patterns can manifest in so many ways, great and small. Once again, I really want to emphasize this is not about blame, okay? We're not blaming our mothers, and maybe you are, and that's fine, but that's not the focus here. It's really about, again, empowering ourselves to see things as they are. This is the only thing that's going to create change. So to give a small example of this, this is actually someone else's story that I saw, but I'll just put it in the context of myself, this kind of imaginary situation. So let's say that I grew up hearing my mom talk about all the things she hated about her body. She was always dieting, complaining about her looks, criticizing every flaw and feature of herself. And as a child, people would always tell me how much I looked like my mother. So in this imaginary situation, there's a good chance that my mother's beliefs about her body become some of my internalized beliefs along the way. There's a good chance that I've subconsciously inherited a sense of shame about my body. Does that make sense? Maybe you can, hearing this example, maybe you can think of some other examples, things that are personal to you. This is really a tangible example of a patriarchal wound being inherited through the mother line. And maybe you can relate with having a strained, toxic, or even estranged relationship with your mother. And perhaps you're beginning to get the sense that this has something to do with the patriarchal trauma in your lineage. This is a huge, huge topic. And it's something I'm going to be talking about a lot more in Matriarchal Medicine Carriers, my upcoming retreat. But I'm going to share just a little bit more here, just to kind of help ground this a little bit more. So let's talk just for a moment about healing the mother-daughter split, which is not an easy thing to do. But healing the mother-daughter split and the legacy of patriarchal trauma in your lineage is an opportunity to heal and remother yourself. Remother yourself. This healing is essential. Otherwise, we will keep reliving painful patterns and pass on this patriarchal trauma. And this is one of the reasons that we should really care about healing the mother line for ourselves, for our children, for our lineage, for the world. Doing this ancestral healing work is a big calling. And I don't believe that it's ever too early or too late to begin this sacred work. This is a big calling. I saw this beautiful quote the other day that really spoke to the essence and magnitude of this calling by Kenuma Yawanawa, who says, "When the spiritual calling is big, it's as if you are no longer in control of your life. Upon entering into this sacred study, you learn that your life is no longer about what you want. Instead, it's about what's best for you. Women need to discover and unlock the force they hold within themselves. She must challenge herself to break the belief that a woman doesn't have the capacity and is inferior, and for her to know that she is so much more than this. She can be and do whatever she sets her heart to do." This ancestral healing work is so much about unlearning what we've been taught to be. It's a return to our purest essence of self. It's a return to our womanhood and our worth, undoing hundreds and thousands of years of patriarchal oppression. This is about healing from the deeply ingrained belief that we are not enough. It's about healing the legacy of shame and silence that has really pushed this patriarchal trauma into the shadows. It's about recognizing the many ways that we have been cut off from our sacredness and our sovereignty. We are living in a time and in a place where we have the privilege to do this healing. So many of the women did not have the opportunity, privilege, awareness, or support to do it, right? Some of our grandmothers, so many of our grandmothers were shamed and silenced, right? And they were never given the space to grieve, to scream, to rage. So you have this opportunity to unleash and release what they could not, to scream when they could not, to bring forward your medicine in ways that they could not. And so we really need to seize this opportunity with both hands and do this healing for the entire lineage. I'm going to give you an opportunity now to reflect on the patriarchy wound in a personal way, looking into the shadows and recognizing some of the ways that the patriarchy has negatively impacted your mother line. So I'm going to pull up those questions for you. Okay. I will read these aloud. So the first question is, look at the list of patriarchal patterns that you wrote down a few minutes ago and the patterns that you self-identified with. Do you recognize any of these self-identified patterns in your mother or grandmother? And you might recognize that your mother and grandmother, carry different patriarchal wounds than you as well. So just take a moment to really reflect on that list, your relationship to those patterns and your mother's and grandmother's relationship to those patterns as well. Number 2, are there negative cycles, beliefs, or patterns that keep repeating in your life which might be connected to intergenerational wounds in your mother line? So this is really looking at the core wounds. So we're talking about things like sexual trauma, addiction, loss of children, miscarriages, maybe even something like war or migration. So these kind of core wounds, which are different than the patterns. The pattern's kind of like the symptom, and the wound is what's underneath the pattern. And please use your intuition as well as what you know about your lineage, right? The stories that you have and what have you. So feel free to really use your intuition here. And last but not least, do you have a sense of what's longing to be healed in your matriarchal lineage? And write down any and all insights. Yes, abuse is a core wound. So I just saw someone in the chat. Yes, abuse, neglect, absolutely. Those are core wounds. Yeah. So see if you can identify some of the core patterns and some of the core wounds. And, really just kind of write down anything and everything that comes to mind. So I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to reflect on these questions. And once again, when you're finished journaling, please feel free to share some of your reflections in the chat so we can feel ourselves reflecting on these questions together. We're in this together. You're not alone, right? So, yes, about 10 minutes, and then I will read out some of the shares. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat this because someone's asking. So the patterns are the symptoms, and the wound is what's beneath the pattern. It's basically the reason for the pattern. Yeah? Yeah, sisters, I just want to remind you all that if this is feeling like a lot and you need a moment to step away, please do go take care of your needs. I know this is really, really deep, so please feel free to take a little break if you need just a minute to go ground yourself, stretch, breathe, whatever, maybe put your body on the earth outside. Again, look after your needs. This is really, really deep stuff. I just want to mention here that perhaps you're recognizing the patterns and you're recognizing that there are some wounds, but you're maybe not sure what the connection is, and that's okay. You don't need to have like a perfectly logical reason to explain why this wound would lead to this pattern. So I just want to mention that, and this is where going into the embodied acknowledgement piece, which is the next spiral, can help us create some of these links and kind of see why this wound would lead to this pattern and what have you. So just know that for now, it's okay if you don't know the direct connection. Just one more minute, and then I'm going to read out some of your shares. So just one more minute to finish if you are still writing. Okay, I want to read just some of your shares. I'm just going to kind of pick bits and pieces here and there that feel really powerful. And, we all hold pieces of this wisdom, and it's so beautiful when we share, of course, because we see our own story reflected back to us in so many different ways. We can see the similarities and what have you. So I'm going to just pick a few things to share for the next 5 minutes. The wound of having to grow up fast and get on with it in times of trauma, such as death of a mother, grief, and separation. We were chattel of our fathers and husbands, so lack of power, at the whims of the head of household, lack of worth, victimhood ensued. Wound, centuries, millennia of not being able to speak about patriarchy's impacts. The symptom, individual blame and self-loathing for systemic problems, suffering in silence due to shame. The wound to be healed is the lack of a voice, to have to accept to give birth, marriage not from choice, not being able to follow their heart of true love, having to conform to society and feel dominated by boundaries not of their choosing. So many questions, but can see a pattern needing to be healed and loved. Yes. Just scrolling down here. Power again. I felt powerful when we were connecting with the wise grandmothers at the beginning and looking at the patterns in myself, my mother, and my grandmother as well as aunts. It's power. Being subservient to men completely, but also alone, so alone. unable to have a loving and intimate connection with a partner or have close female friends. Eating the wrong things, not feeling right, getting social anxiety because I feel I'm not as nice as everyone else, unable to take compliments as I don't believe they are meant. None of this is behavior that I know or sense have been passed from mother to grandmother. I don't want my behavior to go on to my daughters or their daughters. It's heart-wrenching. Yeah. This brings up for me that, coming to terms with all of this is a process. Sometimes it really takes time for us to really see into the lineage and see the patterns, see the transference, and it doesn't necessarily all just come at once, right? And this is why, we spiral, because we go deeper and deeper each time that we spiral, and we see more and more, and we heal more and more. So I'm not sure, I can't see the name on this share, but it's okay that you don't know if these patterns have come from your mother or grandmother. And maybe it's something that's further back, And sometimes it's not quite as direct either. We're talking a lot about mother, grandmother, the lineage that way. But the healing that I recently did in my most recent spiral of healing actually showed me the relevance of uncles. There was some trauma with uncles on both sides of my family that kind of created this really interesting constellation of wound and pattern. And so it's sometimes not as linear and straightforward as I'm kind of presenting it, right? Sometimes we kind of have to go outside of the confines of the very sort of linear matriarchal line, if that makes sense, to kind of look and see if there are patterns somewhere else. Someone just mentioned an aunt, for example. So yeah, please don't worry that you can't see the direct connection yet. It's really okay. Let's see here. I am realizing how much rage exists in my lineage. I usually sense sadness and grief overall, but the rage is really coming through. Specifically, rage over having to hide, assimilate, be agreeable, and live a life they did not choose, always being in survival mode. Wow, that's really, really powerful insight there. Someone sharing, I feel muddy and lost. I am adopted and don't have a bond with either mother. All 12 points resonate, and I can see where my mother's need for perfection drilled many of these home. Really, really holding you with so much love. And thank you for bringing up the topic of adoption, because for those of you who are adopted, you really have sort of two sets of primary lineages, if that makes sense. So you can choose to either connect with your birth parents, or the lineages of your birth parents, or the lineages of your adoptive parents. You might choose one, you might choose both. So yeah, it's really up to you, but you kind of have an extra set of complexity to work with, of course. And again, it's okay if you don't see the direct transference of these patterns just yet. If you're just starting to see, that's great. Imposter syndrome, always being on the periphery and not fully trusting straight away, not fully loving as the trust was broken. Really powerful. I'll just read a couple more. My mother never felt good about herself, and she passes that on to my sister and I. I cannot shake the victim role. Yes, getting out of the victim role is really challenging, but it can be done. It can be done. It just takes time, it takes work, but it's absolutely possible. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. I know there's so many more shares, and I wish I had time to read them all. I will certainly go and read all of your shares later. But thank you all for such deep sharing. It's really, like I said, so powerful for us to share our experiences. It's really important because we're bringing these shadows to light, right? By speaking them aloud, by sharing them with others, we're getting them out of the dark, out of the shadows. And that's really what we need to do to begin this healing process. So we're now going to transition from sort of this teaching part of the workshop to something a bit more experiential. And I would love to guide you on a journey with the wise grandmothers to awaken a sense of your unique ancestral medicine. So just before we do that, it feels important to share that, as we're bringing all these wounds and patterns to light, as we're bringing them out of the shadows, we need to remember that there is a path forward, and that these wounds and patterns are being shown to us, and we're becoming aware of them for the intention of healing, right? And we all have the medicine that we need to heal these wounds inside of us. It's just a matter of digging deep and really unleashing it and activating it. So I hope that this journey will kind of give you a little bit of a taste of that, kind of maybe be a first step for you in feeling the medicine that you hold and feeling supported by the wise grandmothers. And, it's really important to invite the wise grandmothers into this healing process, because they, as I shared, are the elders of the lineage, and they want this healing too. They want to see the lineage healed and whole and well, and they want to see you healed and whole and well. So hopefully, you had a beautiful initial experience, and we're now going to go deeper with them. So I invite you to get really comfortable. You might like to lie down. You might like to cover yourself with a blanket, or just maybe you want to stay sitting up. If you're not very used to journeying, you might want to stay sitting up just to help you stay awake. I know sometimes people can kind of fall asleep during journeys. If you do fall asleep, please don't worry. It's really okay. Just trust that you're having the experience in this moment that you need to have, and you can always repeat the journey later. So just take a moment to kind of get settled, and just begin by taking some deep breaths and really feeling your body. You might like to place your hands on your body. And just for a few moments, I really invite you to kind of do a check-in with yourself. How is your body feeling in this moment, having unearthed some of these difficult truths? You might feel a little tender. You might feel sadness. You might feel grief. Your nervous system might just be a little bit agitated, or you might be feeling like, finally I'm looking at this. I've been wanting to look at this. Finally, I'm looking at this. This feels amazing. So just really do a check-in with yourself as you're breathing, and I really encourage you to put your hands on yourself somewhere, like you're giving yourself a hug, and you're giving yourself your presence, right? And just really checking in. How are you feeling in this moment? How's your body? And I invite you to really pay attention to your breath. Sometimes when our nervous system's a little activated, we tend to breathe very shallow. So just notice if you're kind of breathing in a shallow way, and try to deepen your breath. Breathe into your belly and just tell yourself that you're safe. You're safe in your body. You are here for yourself. And it's okay to feel everything you're feeling. There's no need to change anything. Just try to breathe a little bit deeper into all of it. Taking a big breath in through your nose. Exhaling deeply through your mouth. You are safe. You are held. You are not alone. I invite you to begin to gently, slowly open your awareness once again to the wise grandmothers of your mother line. As you begin to acknowledge them, feel this pathway of connection opening up. Feel them standing at the edges of your awareness in the realm of spirit. These wise grandmothers who are the guardians of your matriarchal lineage, who are deeply well and deeply wise in spirit. Feel their presence begin to gather around you. Imagine them drawing near, and notice any sensations in your body or shift in your energetic field as they arrive, stepping firmly into your awareness. These wise grandmothers might be very far back in your lineage. They might be more recent. Or there might be wise grandmothers scattered throughout your lineage, throughout the generations. See if you have a sense of this without the need to get too specific. Continue breathing deeply as you come into closer connection with the wise grandmothers, really feeling their presence. You might catch glimpses of the grandmothers, their eyes, their expressions, their clothes or adornments. You might get a really strong sense of them energetically. Can you feel the essence of them? The texture of their souls? You might notice that the spirit of the grandmothers carry aspects of nature. Stars and firelight, salt and sea, roses and wellsprings, pine and snow, or any other aspect of nature. You might also feel the presence of animals who are connected to the spirit of the grandmothers. Really open your awareness to imagine, sense, and feel the grandmothers. Taking time to simply be with them and witness them, and have them witness you. What is it about these wise elders that makes them wise? What kind of feminine wisdom do your wise grandmothers embody and hold? What kind of feminine wisdom do they embody and hold? invite you to bring your awareness to your entire mother line. You might imagine or experience the lineage as a thread of light, with light spots and dark spots, or perhaps as a river stretching back behind you, with the wise grandmothers standing protectively around you. This lineage goes way, way back into time beyond memory. And I invite you to simply feel your place in the lineage. Feel your place. If you have children or grandchildren, this will, of course, affect the way that you perceive your place in the lineage. Most importantly, what does it feel like to hold this place in your lineage? I invite you to see yourself now and feel yourself as a medicine carrier in your mother line. Take a moment to ask yourself, what if it's my destiny and legacy to be the change in my lineage? What if part of my sacred purpose in this life is to heal intergenerational wounds and patriarchal patterns so the blessing of the matriarchs can flow freely and abundantly? What if my unique place in the lineage is to alchemize ancestral burdens into blessings so that cycles of pain and harm can end with me? What if? Open your heart to this powerful possibility of being a medicine carrier, with the knowledge that you already carry the medicine you need to heal yourself and your lineage. Really feel this ancestral medicine awakening inside of you. Focus on the sensation and feeling of that medicine, even if it's really, really deep inside of you and it's hard to feel and it's hard to find. See if you can reach for it. Feel it as maybe a spark or a fire within you. Alternatively, you might already identify as a medicine carrier in your lineage, and perhaps you hear the call to deepen your commitment to this sacred role. Your medicine awakening inside you. Feel your medicine. As this medicine continues to awaken inside you, Feel the wise grandmothers around you, celebrating you in this. Know that they have been praying for someone like you in the lineage, and they're here to support your role in the lineage and your ancestral medicine. Take a moment to reflect. What would change within myself, my lineage, and my life if I were to fully claim this role as a medicine carrier? What would change as a result of deeply healing intergenerational wounds and patriarchal patterns? And who would benefit? Take some time to intuitively reflect. Trust the insights that you receive and feel the support of the grandmothers. What would change and who would benefit? I invite you to turn your full awareness to the wise grandmothers now. Feel their love, their strength, their wisdom, their magic, their medicine. And feel how they are supporting you with this healing that you are longing for, these changes that you're longing for within yourself and your lineage. Take a moment to simply be in presence with the grandmothers. Honor them with your gratitude and be in reciprocity with them. Listen to their voices. Do they have any special messages to share with you about your unique place in the mother line? take a moment to thank the wise grandmothers aloud and to complete this experience with them in a meaningful way. For example, you might say something like, "Thank you, wise grandmothers, for your love and support, and committed to being the change in the lineage." Feel the blessing of the wise grandmothers as they step back into the mists of time, moving beyond your awareness. Know that they are always there to connect with, to support you. You simply have to reach out to them with your intention and attention. Take a few deep breaths and ground yourself in your body in the present moment, closing any and all curiosities about your mother line for now. And when you're ready to transition, please go ahead and reach for your journal. And I invite you to write down anything that you wish to remember from this experience. And I have a few prompts for you on the screen. So I'm going to read these aloud, these prompts. Impressions of the wise grandmothers. What did you feel, see, and sense as you connected with them? What would change within yourself, your lineage, and your life if you were to fully claim this role as a medicine carrier? What would change as a result of healing intergenerational wounds and patriarchal patterns, and who would benefit? And last but not least, messages from the wise grandmothers about your unique place in your mother line, or anything else that they shared with you. So I'm just going to give you about 5 minutes to journal, and then we'll come back together for some sharing. whenever you have journaled and you feel complete with that, please feel free to write something in the chat, just maybe one thing that feels most potent from that journey, the most potent thing from that journey. Okay, loves, I'm going to read out some of these shares. They're really, really beautiful. So perhaps the future of my lineage would feel that their inner knowing is able to shine brighter. It starts from me speaking my truth and allowing my daughters to speak theirs. Most potent elements were creativity, nature, sensuality, and sexuality. Really powerful. Let's see. Connecting with my genuine compassion beneath the gender stereotype of keeping sweet. Vicky, wow. My daughter was sex trafficked by my ex, and my mother and grandmother are telling me that I'm doing a good job with her and that we will both be okay. I need to stop worrying about all the little things. Honoring you so much, Vicky. Honoring your place in the lineage so deeply. Thank you for sharing. Someone else here shares, I had an image and a sense of being powerful, even intimidating looking, and turning around to see my child and keeping that same power, but being nurturing as well, soft and smiling while holding the power. I love that image so much, so powerful. To do what the women before me were silenced from doing. Yes. I saw a line of undulating light flowing before me like a river of fire or lava, and a lot of bare feet on earth. Amazing. That's really beautiful. I received the message that I am a bridge between the material and immaterial worlds, part of the greater consciousness, and an integral player in my own life in which I am supported to express my fullest presence. So beautiful. Love that so much. They showed me that I was cosmic and only a speck within my ancestral grandmother line, and that they travel amongst the stars. This imagery is just so beautiful. It's really so beautiful to witness and receive. Cynthia shares, I am the last of our line. They want to live through me. Wow, Cynthia. That is really powerful. I was sitting around a campfire and I pulled on the thread I first saw when we started and waited to see who showed up. I got this image of swirling golden energy. So beautiful. Someone else shares, I found it hard to connect with them. I felt as though I was in space with them amongst the stars, but did not receive any strong impressions of them. Really beautiful to acknowledge just that it was hard to connect. And I'm sure you're not alone in feeling that it was hard to connect, and just know that it might just take a little more patience and a little more perseverance to really form that connection with them that maybe would be really powerful and really fulfilling, right? So sometimes we just have to be a little bit patient with our ancestors, because there may be still, it takes more time for them to process us and for us to process them, right? Thank you for sharing. They said, I am the only one who can heal our lineage. I'm the last of my line and set them free. Oh, wow. So powerful. There was a moment of lucid connection, warmth on my back and around me, as if an embrace. Annalise shares, I felt a sense of bookends, with my ancient grandmother on one end and me on the other, and all the generations of mothers between us being held together by us. So gorgeous. My grandmother said, you are the one. You are the one we have been waiting for. You are our earth healer. Whew. Give me spirit bumps. Yes, you are the one. You are the one we've been waiting for. Such a powerful message to receive. I sensed that they are living vicariously through me to show up in ways they could not. Yes, absolutely. My grandmothers were smiling and chatting with me and telling me to live my dreams and put my needs first. They gave me a great idea for my therapy business and supporting new mothers with birth trauma. Wow, so creative and so beautiful. Message from my grandmothers, be and heal. They are asking me to open each day to their presence and their guidance and support. Yes, so gorgeous. Just going to read a few more. Sarah shares, one wise grandmother said, I'm so sorry I brought into it. What bullshit. It is an early American Protestant Christian piety based on patriarchal authority and control. Wow, Sarah, I did not know that. That's really interesting. I see what you're saying now. I'm so sorry I brought... okay, I see. Wow, really powerful, Sarah. Thank you for sharing. Most potent piece is actually making the connection with my wise grandmothers. My mother blocked this for some reason, and it's really powerful to connect with these wise women. Yes, it is so powerful. Felt the grandmothers, their profound sense of inner peace, content, compassionate, fierceness, love, mysterious, magic. They know that they live within me. Yes, beautiful. I saw them reaching out, hands linked together as guides who, through their suffering, have found healing and passing it on. Yes, Julie. Exactly. The grandmothers have been through suffering, right? The wise grandmothers, and they have found healing and they're passing it on. So insightful. I am capable. I am loved. I am accepted as I am. All my ancestral women. We are one, separate, but one. I think I will leave us on that note. Thank you all so much. Again, I'm going to read all of these later because they're so profound. And I really hope that this connection with the wise grandmothers continues in your life after this workshop, because this is really where we can receive support from the lineage and to feel that love that's there. in spite of all the pain and the wounds and the patterns, our wise grandmothers are standing there so powerfully, offering us their support and their love. And so this is hopefully just the beginning of your relationship with them. And as I shared, some of you might need to put in a little extra work and have a little extra patience to really feel that deep connection with them. It can take time. Yeah. So, for the last 30 minutes of this workshop, I'm going to, first of all, introduce my upcoming retreat, Matriarchal Medicine Carriers, which I've mentioned a few times. And then after that, I'm going to answer any and all questions that you have. So hopefully some of you have been writing questions in your journal. I'm going to get to them soon. I will let you know when it's time to put them in the chat. So I really, really hope that you've enjoyed this introductory experience of connecting with the wise grandmothers and recognizing some of the patriarchal patterns in your mother line and some of the wounds and activating your unique ancestral medicine. It's really such an honor to hold this space for each and every one of you. And I'm getting teary-eyed now because it really means so much to me to be here and to be with all of you. So just thank you, first of all, and trusting me to guide you in this. And I want to present you with this opportunity to continue your ancestral journey as a medicine carrier for your lineage, to really embrace the beauty and truth and power of who you are and the great possibility of who you can be in these times of change, who you can be in your lineage, right? And I believe that we really need to come to terms with the way that the patriarchy has impacted the women who've gone before us so that we can be this full expression of who we are. So we can liberate ourselves, liberate our lineage, and liberate those who will come after us as well. So this is why I've created this offering for you, Matriarchal Medicine Carriers. And I'm going to just pull up. There we go. So you can see the dates on here. This is a 3-day deep dive retreat, April 13th, 14th, and 15th, which is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the Friday is just in the afternoon, and then it's a full day Saturday and a full day on Sunday. And this is really, at its heart, a healing journey to unleash your ancestral medicine. So today we kind of activated it. We kind of got a feeling of it. This retreat is about unleashing it, unleashing this medicine and unlocking the power of the matriarchy. It includes wisdom transmissions and guided journeys, sacred songs, vocal activations, embodiment practices, powerful tools, breakout groups, and sisterhood support. So, today we had a really beautiful time sharing in the chat, but the retreat is going to be on Zoom. It's going to be much more interactive, and you'll have a lot of space to share and really be in support and sisterhood with each other. So this journey is really an invitation to understand and unravel harmful patriarchal patterns in the lineage, empowering you to make more conscious choices about how you live your life. Conscious choice. This is a huge part of this journey. Build inner strength and resilience by healing intergenerational wounds. Improve relationship with living family members and break the chain for future generations. Call back parts of you that have been fragmented due to inherited patriarchal trauma and beliefs so you can become more fully expressed as your feminine self. Release shame and reclaim the power of the sacred feminine. Unleash your medicine and alchemize ancestral burdens into blessings. Discover the power of the matriarchy in an embodied way. And, of course, claim your place in the lineage as a matriarchal medicine carrier. I see a question here in the chat that I would like to answer right now, which is, will it be recorded? Yes, the whole 3-day retreat is going to be recorded. So if you're busy that weekend, if you're not going to be able to attend live, please don't let that stop you from signing up, because you can absolutely watch the recordings, do the journey in your own time. There is a certain magic to being live, and I encourage, if you can be there live, that's great, but it's not necessary. You can absolutely do this journey in your own time with the recordings. So at this deep dive retreat, you're going to embark on an initiatory journey with your matriarchal lineage, focusing on the intersection of personal and ancestral healing to unleash your medicine. So I'm going to bring up the ancestral medicine map again, which I shared earlier. So today we touched on recognizing the shadow, right? The first spiral. So during the 3-day retreat, we're going to go deeper into this spiral, and we're also going to journey through the other 2 spirals as well. So we go through this entire map through our 3 days together. And really held within this sacred, safe container of this retreat, you'll be guided to feel and release pain, shame, grief, and rage from your matriarchal lineage in a somatic, embodied way. So I'm going to guide you into embodied acknowledgement with drumming and ritual and sound, and we will move into conscious choice through ritual and journeying, unearthing the many blessings of the lineage, hopefully some of which you got a little taste of today. And throughout this journey, you will work in deep partnership with the wise grandmothers, as well as the mythic grandmothers, if that calls to you. And I'm going to talk more about the mythic grandmothers in a minute. So really working with the elders of your lineage to bring forward healing and liberation. And I just want to kind of to call forth some potential signs that you're ready for this journey. So perhaps, you've been through this process today and you're really realizing, wow, there are a lot of patterns and a lot of wounds that I recognize now, and I really am ready to heal. If you feel that readiness to heal, even if it's a little bit scary, that is, a sign that you're ready for this level of healing. We talked a little bit about the mother-daughter split earlier. If you have a strained, toxic, or a strange relationship with your mother, and you really want to release the burdens that have been passed down to you through the crux of this relationship, again, another sign that this journey might be for you. If you're hungry for an even deeper understanding of how the patriarchy has negatively influenced your mother line, another great sign that this journey is for you. If you feel disconnected from the sacred feminine, having been influenced by masculine influences your whole life, this is a great journey for you. And if you're really ready to dive into your ancestral healing journey in an embodied way. So I talked earlier about this embodiment piece. Our body is the memory bank. And so we have to go into the body to really do this healing work. And that's really where the embodied acknowledgement piece comes in, and I'm really excited to guide you in that. And this also, I just want to mention, would go really well with any talk therapy you might be doing or other therapies, healing modalities. This weekend can pair really well with all of that. And last but not least, you're ready to feel the power of the matriarchy. No matter what kind of relationship you might have to living relatives or recent ancestors, you are ready to feel the power of the matriarchy. And you know deep in your bones that you're here to be the change in your lineage. This is a little look at the schedule. Please don't worry if the writing's small and you can't read all this. I'll just highlight a few key points. All of this information is on the webpage I'm going to share in a few minutes. So you don't have to worry about remembering this or seeing all the details. But day 1, so Friday the 13th, we have a session which is the introduction, the heroine's journey, meeting ancestral guides and recognizing the shadow. So in meeting the ancestral guides, I'm going to guide you to connect with one specific wise grandmother who's kind of going to really be your anchor and your support throughout the whole journey. I'm going to talk more about the journey of initiation, and we're going to go deeper into recognizing the shadow. So deeper into what we've begun today. So this the session starts at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK and Ireland. So the same time as we started this workshop today. And this is a 2.5-hour session, so it's the same as today. Then we come to Saturday, April 14th. Part 1 is the patriarchy, intergenerational trauma, and the mother-daughter split. So we touched on these topics today, but we're going to go a lot deeper. So, these are really, really big topics, and there's a lot to share. So we're going to go deeper. And Part 2, oh, thank you. Someone's saying these dates do not coincide. Thank you. It's Friday, April 14th. I have this wrong. Thank you so much for telling me there's a typo. It's Friday, April 14th, Saturday, April 15th. I apologize. So Saturday, April 15th, part 2 is embodied acknowledgement, grieving and raging for the lineage. So this is where we really come into the embodiment piece. I'm going to guide you in a really powerful ritual and vocal activation, sound activation that's really going to guide you to release from the body some of these, these pains, this grief, this rage that's coming through from the lineage, right? That's really wanting to be expressed. And this is all day. So we start at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. UK and Ireland, and we end at 11:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 9:30 p.m. UK and Ireland, and there is an hour break, sort of in the middle of the day of our session. Yeah. Okay, so then Sunday, April 16th, not the 15th. Part 1 is embodied acknowledgement again, so we're going to come back into some deep embodiment work, releasing shame from the lineage. And then part 2 is conscious choice, unleashing your matriarchal medicine and claiming your place in the lineage. Same times as Saturday, so it's all day. It's a 2-hour session, then a 2.5-hour session with an hour break in the middle. And once again, all of the live calls are going to be hosted on Zoom with recordings available afterward. And I'm going to post the recordings as soon as I can at the end of each day. So if you need to catch up with something, if you can do most of the live calls, but you have to miss something, then you'll be able to catch up before we get to the next section. It's really important to take this journey in order because we're moving through the 3 spirals. So, you don't want to jump ahead. But as I said, you're going to have the recordings. You can do this journey in your own time if you need to. Okay, right. Also, you're going to also get a PDF workbook that's going to go with the 3-day retreat, a matriarchal medicine carriers playlist, and a private Facebook group. When I ran this retreat in 2021, the Facebook group was really, really such a powerful place where women were sharing, and it was a really wonderful place to connect. So these little extras are really wonderful to have. And then we come to some time-sensitive bonuses. I always love giving bonuses with my offerings. So this first bonus is called Matriarchal Blood Mysteries. This is a really powerful video recorded class that explores the 7 blood gates, which are birth, menarche, first sexual experience, which is the breaking of the hymen, pregnancy and birth, the return of menses after pregnancies, menopause, and death. Those are the 7 blood gates, and I'm going to share about these blood gates in the context of matriarchal healing and the thread of blood that connects us to our mothers and our grandmothers. This class is a great way to prepare for the retreat. So this bonus is going to end in just a couple days' time, Saturday, April 1st at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Ireland and the UK. I'm going to send out the video class via email after the bonus closes, so just know that you're going to get an email if you sign up in the next few days, and then you'll have this time between April 1st and when we start on Friday, April 14th, to watch this video class. It's a really, really powerful class. I've gotten a lot of really good feedback on it. Okay, bonus number 2 is Ancestral Medicine Map Workbook. So this PDF is it's really a way for you to continue your ancestral healing journey after the retreat. So during the retreat, I'm going to guide you through the 3 spiral process that I've walked you through, the ancestral medicine map, and we're going to be focusing on the matriarchal lineage specifically, but this process can be applied to any of the threads of your lineage, right? So the PDF workbook is a tool for you to repeat the spiral path of initiation. So you can continue your journey beyond the retreat. You can use the workbook to heal different wounds and patterns in your matriarchal lineage, so you can use it to go deeper, or you can use the workbook to heal other lineages as well. And this bonus ends next week, Wednesday, April 5th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Ireland and the UK. And the last bonus is a Mythic Grandmother's ebook. So during the retreat, as I mentioned, you're going to work closely with your wise grandmother guides to support your healing process. And this will also include, if it calls to you, the multicultural mythic grandmothers. So in cultures from around the world, there are myths and stories about crones, grandmothers, and old wise women. So just to give a few examples, in Scotland, Ireland, and the Isle of Man, she's called the Cailleach. In Slavic folklore, she is Baba Yaga. In northern Mexico, she is La Loba, wolf woman. So this little ebook is going to introduce you to a variety of mythic grandmothers, weaving you into connection with the cultural lineage of your mother line. So if you happen to know the cultural lineage of your mother line, you can hopefully connect with one of the mythic grandmothers. And again, they can be supporting you throughout this retreat. Someone's asking, is this a separate PDF to the one we receive in the retreat? Yes, so all these bonuses are separate from the PDF handbook, the PDF guidebook you're going to get for the retreat itself. So they're all separate documents, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is the price. It's $297 US, and the doors close on April 13th, so the day before we begin. And you can see the link there, tara-wild.com/matriarchy. And I want to mention that I have 3 scholarships available for those of you who really want to join this experience, but you don't have the $297 US to do so. And there's going to be priority given to BIPOC, and you'll need to apply. So to apply for the scholarship, you'll just need to write me an email telling me a little bit about why you want to join this experience and what it would mean to your life. And please note that to receive the scholarship, one of the 3 scholarships, you need to be available to attend the 3-day live retreat on April 14th, 15th, and 16th. So make sure to include this in your email and let me know that you're available to attend the retreat live. And then I'm going to select 3 people from everyone who applies, and that will be decided by April 13th, right before we begin. So if 297 is not possible for you, then please feel free to apply. If you are excited and you know that you really want to join this journey, I invite you to go to the link and save your place, register. And to just complete, I would love to share a few words from women who took this experience back in 2021 to kind of give you a better sense of this journey. So I'm going to read some of their words because I always find that the women who come to my experiences sometimes can really give a better insight into what it's like than I can, right? So Carrie shares, Tara is a compassionate, wise, thoughtful, and powerful teacher and facilitator of sacred space. The healing spaces she cultivates, the wisdom she transmits, and the way she can stir and heal your soul through her musical gifts allow for great personal transformation. Tara seamlessly weaves together deep wisdom transmissions, guided journeys and meditations, embodiment practices, story and song, sacred rituals, and more. As a gentle and careful guide, Tara exquisitely lays down a beautiful path to healing and transformation. She will absolutely protect you and keep you safe along the way. The reward for embarking on a heroine's journey with her will be deep transformative healing and blessings for yourself as well as your lineage. Before I continue sharing, someone's just asking for the link, which I forgot to put in the chat for you all, and I'll read it aloud as well. So tara-wild.com/matriarchy. I just posted it there on YouTube, and it's in the Facebook group now too. So tara-wild.com/matriarchy. Okay, so a few more words from wonderful women who attended the retreat back in 2021. Alyssa shares, I don't even know where to begin. I've grieved and I've awoken to my ancestral wisdom. Callings, wounds, and experiences throughout my life are connecting and making sense, and I am a new woman. Just wow. This was something else, Tara. You've touched my heart and soul in a way I haven't experienced before. Truly amazing woman and facilitator. Thank you, thank you. Joe shares, I deeply appreciate and value Tara's ability to hold space with a large group of women and across many different time zones. I have so much gratitude for her wisdom and breadth of knowledge, which is deeply integrated in an embodied way. I love the combination of teachings, journaling, and ritual, which transmits this wisdom very holistically. Tara speaks with clarity and eloquence, weaving stories, songs, and long-forgotten truths. She facilitates a beautiful healing space with a gentle and warm heart. Angie shares, for the first time in my life, I feel deeply connected to my matriarchal lineage and my ancestors. I have a path forward that includes them. Getting to know them better, having them be an integral part of my journey toward our collective and continued healing, discovering my life's purpose and living a life that honors them and our ancestral medicine is something I'm very much looking forward to. And lastly, this is from Jody. Tara thinks of everything when it comes to her retreat. I was wonderfully surprised how gently and loving she guides us through each journey in meditation. Her loving, consistent reminders for preparation for each part of this 3-day retreat was very nurturing. Tara is an excellent facilitator, guiding us to meet our deepest selves, and in this case, our wise and well ancestors as well. The additional gift of her music added such a depth to the experience. Thank you so much, Tara. Okay. So, if you hear the call to join this experience, please go to tara-wilde.com/matriarchy and register. I am so excited to continue this journey with some of you. And I want to complete this call by answering any of your questions. So if you were hopefully writing questions down throughout the workshop that haven't yet been answered, please go ahead and put your questions into the chat now. And if you have any questions about the retreat, please go ahead and put your questions about the retreat in the chat as well. Just for a few moments, if everyone could refrain from commenting so I can see all the questions lined up, that would really help me. And I already see one question here. Where will the retreat actually take place? It's going to happen on Zoom. So it's going to be online. It's going to be on Zoom. Yeah, I don't think there's anything more to say about that. Okay, here's another question. I had a question to clarify who consists of our matriarchal line. Does it include the women from my mother's father's side, or just the maternal grandmother and mother and her mother and so on? That is a great question. So we all have many different threads, like many different lineages, right? We have 4 primary lineages. And this teaching comes from Daniel 4. He kind of opened my eyes to this idea of 4 primary lineages. So if you take your 4 grandparents, your grandmother, your grandfather, your grandmother, your grandfather on both sides, your mother, your father, those are your 4 primary lineages, and you basically follow it back. So your mother's lineage of women is your mother line. That's what we would call your matriarchal lineage. However, as you mentioned, we also have your father's mother's lineage of women. At this retreat, you can choose to work with either. That's absolutely open to you. If you really feel called to work with your father's mother's lineage of women, that matriarchal line, you can absolutely do that. There are going to be moments in the retreat which are specific to the mother line, the mother's lineage of women, but most of it is going to be transferable. So hopefully that clarifies. And so yes, you can work with either at this retreat if you really feel called to work with not your mother line, but your father's mother's lineage, yeah? Okay. Can people not attend in person? No, this is not an in-person retreat. Perhaps I will do this as an in-person retreat at some point, but I really like to make these offerings accessible and affordable, which means doing it online so that as many people can come as possible. Someone's asking, what hertz is your singing bowl? I don't know exactly what the hertz is, but I do know this one is the heart, the heart chakra hertz, whatever that is. So hopefully that's helpful. Someone's asking, for those of us who cannot access family history, do you have any daily ritual suggestions for connection and healing our ancestry? Yeah, that's really beautiful. So I really love recommending that you set up an ancestral memory space. And for those, if you don't have any photos, if you don't have any family history, you can still set up an ancestral memory space. And maybe you leave little offerings on the altar, the memory space, that are connected to nature. So as we were doing the exercise, connecting with the wise grandmothers, maybe you got some impressions of certain aspects of nature. For example, on my father's mother's lineage, I feel very connected to roses. My grandmother on that side loved roses, but even beyond that, I just feel a lot of like rose energy in that lineage and those grandmothers. And I also feel a connection to crows on that side of the lineage too. So you might sort of start connecting with certain images and aspects of nature that you could use to really enhance your ancestral memory space. And then that kind of becomes your focal point for sitting down and just feeling the energy of the lineage. And you can call to the wise grandmothers and really deepen that connection. I think a lot of this is about being in presence with our ancestors, that really deep acknowledgement, and just seeing each other and feeling that there's this reciprocity, there's this connection between you. So yeah, I would begin by creating an ancestor memory space, maybe selecting some items from nature, some symbols. You might do some artwork for them, or depending, if you're a creative person, you might sort of offer creations. Sometimes I like to put a little cup of mead on my ancestor memory space, or if I make cookies, I leave a cookie on my ancestral memory space. So just little offerings, and it kind of creates this connection that can be nurtured. Yeah. Just looking to see if there are any other questions. Okay, I'm not seeing any just yet. I'm just going to leave another moment here for any final questions to come in. Does anyone have any other questions about the retreat? Just reading a question that came in. I know this might be strange, but I felt that my maternal grandmother invited my paternal grandmother into the circle as an honored guest. I know that might confuse things though. Recommendation. That's wonderful. I think it's really important to have flexibility and not be too rigid in this connection that we're making with our ancestors, right? So sometimes things get a little bit mixed up, a little bit messy. Sometimes things don't follow, they are not linear, right? This isn't like a linear path. It's really something that's more organic and more open. So I think it's beautiful that you had that vision of your maternal grandmother inviting your paternal grandmother into the circle. It's really beautiful. So yeah, and in the retreat, I'm going to be offering sort of this path, right? But I'll be continuing to encourage you to follow your own guidance. Most of all, follow your own inner guidance, your own embodied wisdom, your intuition, trusting your inner voice and your inner knowing, and your relationship with your ancestors is paramount. Regardless of what I teach and what I say, follow your own guidance. Yeah. Okay, loves. Not seeing any other questions, so I'm going to take a moment just to close our space, close this workshop. Once again, I'm just so honored to have spent this last 2.5 hours with you. I hope that you've enjoyed this free introductory workshop, and I hope that some of you will continue this journey with me. And even if you don't continue this journey with me in the upcoming retreat, I hope that you will continue your journey with your ancestors and do this powerful healing work in whatever way calls to you, and continue your relationship with your wise grandmothers. So Thank you. Thank you all so, so much. There's a final comment here that brings me to a point that I wanted to mention earlier and I forgot. So thank you, Rebecca. Can aunts, great, oh, sorry, I just jumped. There we go. Can aunts, great aunts, etc., sisters of our mothers and grandmothers be wise grandmothers? Yes, Rebecca, absolutely. Like I was saying earlier, follow your own guidance. We don't need to get too rigid about who's included and who's not included. I think it's important to include anyone who feels important. I've even heard of people including people who aren't their blood family in their in the ancestral guides that they're connecting with. They might include really close family friends. It's like they're part of the family too, So yes, I absolutely think that we can extend the wise grandmothers to mean more than just our blood lineage, right? That direct linear thread. And also, I think part of this work is something that I've not mentioned yet, is that by doing this work, we prepare ourselves to become wise grandmothers ourselves one day. That for me is a really big driver for me. It's like, I want to be the wise grandmother, right? I want to be a wise grandmother in my lineage. I want to be a wise grandmother to my grandchildren someday. And that's a big driver for me. Yeah, really seeing ourselves as the wise grandmothers who are becoming that. Okay, just seeing if there's any final questions. Just seeing lots of you saying thank you. Oh yeah, you're so very welcome. Thank you all so much. And I would love to just close our eyes for a moment and place our hands on our hearts and just thank our wise grandmothers once again. Really allow this sense of gratitude to fill your heart in this moment. For the wise grandmothers and also for all those women in your lineage who really went through some really hard things and did what they needed to do to survive. And to really feel gratitude for all of that. Despite the dysfunction and despite the patterns that have been passed down, just really honoring that they survived and they're the reason that we're here. So thank you to all the women who've gone before us. May we really feel the power of our place in our lineage, our place and our power. Thank you, loves. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And for those of you watching the recording, if you have any questions about the retreat, or if you're here and you think of something later, please feel free just to email me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Oh, there's one last question that's really good. How would you suggest holding my living grandmother in a wise space despite seeing her with her faults? Absolutely, Jocelyn. So this kind of brings up a larger question, which is distinguishing the difference between living family members and true ancestors, so those who are no longer living, right? So I would really follow your own intuition. If you feel like honoring her with a photo and maybe you set up an ancestor memory space, if you feel like that's appropriate and you feel a good energy around that, then you can absolutely invite that in. Or you might simply just have something more symbolic to represent her and kind of wish her well and wish her well with her healing journey as well. So yeah, hope that's helpful. But yes, it's important to distinguish the difference between living family members and true ancestors. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. Sending you so much love. Blessings.